but it's all around AI. If you're not using AI right now, you're missing out. And this goes down to even the small mom and pop investor, right? Like that's on my down list of penciled in items. There's some things I want to do for the smaller investors through AI too, because what it's going to do is it allows you to crunch that data so much faster that you can make moves quicker. Now you have to be careful to not let it either you know bias confirmation of what your ego says, so you're jumping and maybe making the wrong moves, but it can crunch that data so much quicker that I think that's going to be huge for the investor going forward. And if you're not using it now, you will be using it in the future.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Brian Durham, is a real estate broker, coach, and entrepreneur who believes great results comes from clarity, strategy, and genuinely putting people first. He's built and scaled high-performing teams by blending smart systems, strong culture, and a deep understanding of how real estate markets actually move. You can find him at wegorealestate.com or across social media, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Thanks for taking the time today, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, when we talk about Twin Cities, you're in Minnesota, right? This is an area of the country and an area of real estate that I think doesn't get enough shine. But I think, a lot of people are looking at what I would call secondary or tertiary markets. For our audience, including myself, who's unfamiliar with, what the market is like out there, walk us through maybe, what's the typical price of a starter home if it's a new build out there?
Sure. So our average price point across kind of all homes is about 375 to 400,000 here in the metro area. Now, Minnesota's a very large state, so you get out to some of the more rural areas, it'll be a little bit less. You can still get down into that 300,000 price point. But we also have some very nice lake homes in areas that, certain lakes, you're not even going to be able to look at a house on the lake for less than $1 million. So it's a very wide and ranging market here, which makes it a lot of fun actually to do business here.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is specifically interesting from the perspective of a real estate agent is that when you have markets where there is a little bit of a lower cost to entry, you're going to see people who are more able and capable of buying, at least from my vantage point, but also you're going to see interest from investors, not just investors in state, but out of state as well. And this is really coming from my Texas lens. Are you seeing out of state investors, looking at the Twin Cities or surrounding areas?
That's really how I kind of cut my teeth in this business 13 years ago now. I got into this side of real estate coming from the mortgage side, being there for almost a decade, simply because I got introduced to, at that time, the largest institutional investor. And, they were buying houses as fast as they could here, all cash. Now, we still have a very robust local investor market. We do see some out of state money that comes in, but I think we're much more a localized investor community here.
Now, For folks who are looking at getting into real estate investing, is there a mom and pop real estate investor community? I know that when that exists, that's a great thing, and it's typically a good sign because it's almost like the Robin Hood effect of real estate. That if you are working, that you could potentially diversify your wealth building portfolio out of just indexed mutual funds into real estate. Are you seeing mom and pop investors out there as well?
For sure. I mean, I think that's really the biggest amount of investors that are out there now here locally anyway, are the people that own the onesie twosies or they're just getting started. And that's the great thing. That's what I love. I've worked with everybody from the brand new investor who's just starting out all the way up to the largest hedge fund in the world. Right. So, there's there's a wide variety, and that's a really cool thing with the investor niche is there's something there for everybody. It's really just a matter of finding out what works for you and what your goals
Yeah.
are, right?
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about working with investors, it's interesting because I'm a newly licensed agent. I got licensed, well, I shouldn't say maybe newly at this point. It was April of last year. And as I was going through, the coursework and then my first couple months in the business, I realized there's almost this division, at least in Texas, there is between agents who work with investors and who understand that, lingo versus agents who are strictly working with residential buyers. And I almost think that, when your residential buyers could one day be investors themselves, that maybe we'll see more overlap between those two spaces. Is that true in places like Minnesota?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's true across the industry as a whole, right? There's so many niches that you can work within this industry. Do you want to work with first time home buyers, move up buyers, the downsizers? There's just so many different things, luxury or investors. I personally I love working with investors because for me, it's a it's a lingo, right? Like you talked about that. What's the return on that? What's the cash on cash return? What are we looking at? Does it make sense? It's kind of a widget that way. When you're working with the traditional home buyer, it's different, and I don't not different in a bad way by any means, but it's different when it's a business transaction versus it's going to be your home that you're planning on living in and raising kids in, or just living in yourself, right? Your home is a different, it's a whole different animal when you're dealing with that than when you're dealing with something along the lines of working with an investor that's trying to make money off of that property, whether that be through a flip or rental property or, whatever they're trying to do. I find a lot of, the investors that I end up working with actually are first time home buyers because
Yeah.
they you start talking to them and it's like, well, I'm going to have this person live with me and I'm thinking about doing that. And during that initial consultation, we start chatting and it's almost like, well, have you thought about buying a duplex and renting out the other half or, using an FHA loan and buying up to that quadplex if you can afford it. There's just so many different ways to go about it. And that's one of the beautiful things of real estate. I also have a lot of those first time home buyers that I worked with that.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Right now we talked about that single family home being almost $400,000 here, right? That
Right.
can be out of some people's budgets. Well, you have to sit down, have a conversation, and maybe the best thing to do is buy that townhouse or the condo. And then you could live in that for a few years. You build some equity, you pull the equity out, or whatever you want to do, or maybe you want to keep it and it cash flows. I have a lot of those right now. The people that I worked with in 2000, 2001 that are coming back to me going, Brian, we want to get a different house, but we don't know what to do because we have this 3% or some of my clients at that time were getting sub 3% mortgages, right? Well, that's like almost free money,
Huge, yeah.
you know.
I mean, at that point in time, it changed people's perspective. I mean, especially if we're talking about, 2020 timeframe, 2019, like that is now, and I think it's changing now because people realize that that's not the case, but that was people's new norm for a time period. And it created a little bit of unrealistic expectations, not just, from sellers and buyers, but also from real estate investors themselves who were looking for, that type of continued success. And, with flippers specifically, folks involved in fix and flip, that became a very difficult strategy when you're having, materials increase, and then you're seeing more competition. And then there was so much new construction that it was really harder to get flips to pencil.
Right, and that's still even now. I mean, it used to be, I don't wanna say easy, but it was much more readily available to find those flips, right? Now you're really digging. You're digging hard to find something that makes, a good return that most of them want to make.
It also made a lot of people think that they were killing it, and they probably were at the time, but there were deals, and I've spoken with investors who, you could buy it wrong and then you could still sell it and for a win. And this was happening in single family, this was even happening in multifamily with, syndicators and fund managers. And those groups really got hit pretty hard because when you take out variable rate debt, economies of scale, and then, in places, like Texas, where there was just so much multifamily construction, that's then has a deflationary effect on rents, right? Because you've got a surplus.
Right, we've started to see that a little bit here. The amount of multifamily that has been built, it seems like every time you turn around, and even it affected me personally. The office building that I had my office in for, 8 years, they sold it and they tore it down and they're in the process of building apartment building there now. So, you
Wow.
know, um, I was a little bit salty about losing my office space, but we have several others across the Twin Cities, but that was my own personal office space. So, that there's a lot of that that's going on, and I think some of them now, you start seeing there for a while, it was as fast as they could build them, they were filling them. Now you're starting to see that kind of lagging effect of overbuild, and now you're seeing them price reduce, price reduce, price reduce, right? So, that's something that you want to be very cognizant about of making sure that you are making the right move because you mentioned it. There's been times I've known people that they kind of dumb luck their way into something and then they think it's going to be that way every time, and then the next one you have one little hiccup that happens and they didn't build in the right contingencies and now they're upside
Yes.
down quick on it, right?
Yeah, and then you got holding costs, and especially if these properties were sitting, people were having to figure out what to do, right? And it does certainly make things a little bit more challenging when you have these, black swan events, maybe coming together and really just making it tough for people, whether it's rates, whether it's, rents, whether it's the cost of materials, everything coming together, COVID, right? And so that just made it very, very challenging for a time period. And I think we're still coming out of that. I would like to pivot a bit here, though, Brian, and ask you specifically about acquisition strategies that you've seen, or maybe that you are particularly bullish on in the Twin Cities area. When working with investors, are you seeing investors, have great success with, off market foreclosure? Is on market a good resource? Seller finance? Do you have any one preferred acquisition strategy that you've seen investors be successful with?
I think the biggest ones where I've seen the success and help people with is the off market stuff, right? It's the networking, and it's it's building that network over time of agents that bring you things, right? Like I work with some developers, and I had an agent call me yesterday and he said, "Hey, I got this deal. It's X number of acres. It's in this town." He's like, does it make sense for your investor?" And I sat down and put pencil to paper, and it doesn't make sense for this one, but for somebody else it might, right? So now I'm taking that around and I'm helping him by shopping it around to some different investors and some different developers to see who it would potentially work for. Because that's one of the other things that I really like is it might not work for this person's business model, but it will work for this person's. You just have to find the right business model that it works for. So,
Yeah.
I think the off market is a great strategy. Um, when it comes to things like the on market deals, they're there to be had, but then you're fighting with potentially 4, 5, 6 other people. So they're a little bit more difficult to put pencil to paper and make the numbers work for most people.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
What do you think about some of these ways where folks are finding these off market properties? Before I was a realtor, I come from a background as a wholesaler. And so I've seen everything from direct mail to, pounding the pavement, knocking doors to, in Texas, we've got, you probably have something similar up there, a list of who's heading to foreclosure the following month. And so then you'll be able to reach out to those people in some capacity. But then you've also got, probate, death, divorce. Do you have any one preferred stream? And then also too, one way of marketing to those people that you've seen be highly successful?
Well, I think it really depends, right? This is a little bit different market here when it comes to foreclosures. Our foreclosure inventory is minuscule still percentage wise.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the home buyers that we work with here. They're much more conservative. So I come from a background of finance almost a decade before I got into this side of real estate, right? And so I did thousands of mortgages before I came over here. And there's still times even to this day that I'll be working with my lender and we're having a conversation with people of like, you don't have to put 20% down. Here's another option. You could put less down to a one-time PMI buyout and things like that to where you can rearrange some of the money and make things still work and get potentially even a lower payment, right? So
Yeah.
and it depends on what that person wants to do. Do they want the security of making sure I've got 20% equity, or do they want a lower monthly payment? So they thought they had to put that down, or is it still a matter of their parents just instilled in them that whole time that they were growing up, you got to put 20% down to buy a house, right? Like it's just, it doesn't have to happen that way. But because of that, we are as Minnesotans, my experience is it's a very fiscally conservative area. So we have very few foreclosures that go through here. Even in the downturn in '08 and '09, the Twin Cities as a whole, we fared very, very well compared to the rest of the country when it came to that, that kind.
That's incredible. That's really incredible. I don't know if most people are aware of that. I think the people, especially, from some of the Sun Belt states where you may see a lot of foreclosure and, just distressed home ownership in general, that it's good to hear that there's some markets where people really aren't losing their homes, that they're coming, 20% down. If you got 20% down, that would work if you're an investor, right? And so if you're coming into that with your homestead, that's a really a good testament to the mentality of the buyers and sellers up there. We are coming up on time here, though, Brian. Any new projects that you're working on? And then as well, what's the best way for folks to get in contact with you or your team?
Sure. So things that I'm working on, I got a lot going on right now. A lot of it is around compliance and things for brokerages and mortgage lenders. But it's all around AI. If you're not using AI right now, you're missing out. And this goes down to even the small mom and pop investor, right? Like that's on my down list of penciled in items. There's some things I want to do for the smaller investors through AI too, because what it's going to do is it allows you to crunch that data so much faster that you can make moves quicker. Now you have to be careful to not let it either you know, bias confirmation of what your ego says, so you're jumping and maybe making the wrong moves, but it can crunch that data so much quicker that I think that's going to be huge for the investor going forward. And if you're not using it now, you will be using it in the future. Then it's going to be a matter of where you're getting that technology, right? So
Yeah.
how to contact me again, you mentioned it, wegorealestate.com is my website. You can find me at pretty much all the social medias, Brian Durham Realtor. I'm pretty easy to find. And I just wanted to touch real quick too on the Sunbelt thing. You're exactly right. Like I used to I've been licensed in Florida, and I've got clients in Florida, and people that I work with in Texas and Arizona, California as well. Like it is, they say real estate is local for a very, very good reason. Each one of those markets, even within a state, you have very different markets, right? So this is why it's really important to get with someone that knows those local markets as an investor that you can work with, and build that relationship with someone that you trust and is going to put your interest first. And then, that's how you build long-term wealth and that network within the industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for your time
Yeah,
today.
thanks for having me, Dylan. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.